Good evening and welcome to episode 9 of the Author's Outpost. I'm one of your hosts, Captain P.F. Dennis.
I'm another of them, Casmodian.
And I'm the newest one, Elena's Kendra.
Yes, and we'd like to welcome Kendra on a permanent basis to the Author's Outpost, so now we'll be having 3 hosts, 3 times the fun. And our special guest author tonight is Zorbane, and even though he's not with us here live...
He's here with us in spirit.
Yes, and on pre-recorded digital bites, which we will be spreading out for you a little later on. But first, we're going to have Casmodian fill us in on a very minimal amount of news.
Yes, unfortunately, it is a week later and we still don't have a Foundry. In fact, we don't have missions republished yet. So, looks like my timeline might have been a little bit off for my best case. What I received from the wonderful and generous Zeronius Rex is, yes, they have started the republish. You should hear news about it this soon. Spoilers, play available soon, probably. So, theoretically, we might see stuff this week. Hopefully. Maybe. Possibly.
Seriously, though, why is Tribble's Foundry not up? Which is kind of aggravating.
The news about it soon makes me wonder if we got a supplies. Now, I'm probably hoping for more than there's actually there, but... maybe there's a feature that we've gotten that they wanted to kind of go surprise with. Or it could just be that they just hadn't bothered to turn it back on. It got so bad I might have been considering reinstalling Neverwinter just so I had a thing.
Yeah, I patched mine up just a little while ago.
Because I need it, man. I just need a quick fix. Just a little bit of map editing.
Yep. It might be worth just going in there to play around with it. It's so different than ours.
Well, and once again, to remind us of what things came out of what we
Mm-hmm.
with the sweat of our brow, and
it also
it
might make us a little angry too.
Well, yeah, it's possible. At the same time, though, it might also give us, because I still kind of want the ability to put down on a map. Like they have objects on there that are, I'll call them cluster objects. Obviously, it's a fantasy environment, so for any of you who haven't actually played with it. And where they have a lot of outdoor environments. They have a number of objects in there which are grouped. Like you can put 20 trees on a map.
Right. You just press a button and it auto-populates.
Well, not the auto-populate. They have an object that is 20 trees.
Oh, really?
Now, these are 20 individual trees. You can go through and delete them after you place it on the map individually. It's sort of like an NPC group, but you can remove objects from it.
That's pretty cool.
I would like something like that. Can you imagine how much easier it would be if I could just put a cargo bay of containers in a room and go, okay, I don't need that, or that.
Yeah.
Just for things like that, or like a mess room scene.
Now, I know I've done it in the dungeon where you hit the button and it just throws random stuff in there. You're talking about something different.
Yeah, this is something different. That's another thing they do have. That one is probably a harder import just because I don't know how it calculates what to put where. That's probably in some background data on the maps that they'd have to put in, which means all the maps would have to get retrofitted, which means dogs and kids.
I don't know how many of us would actually appreciate that. I mean, I think a lot of us like to place things where we want them, and specifically where we want them, specific things. I don't think I'd use that at all, to be honest.
Well, the auto-populate would potentially be able to fill a room and then you could move things around at your leisure. I mean, just think of how you could get you could get a bridge worth of consoles put into place and go, yep, nope, let's move that over there.
Right.
It could be a time-saving measure. You're right. I don't know how many of us would use it, but
No, I do like the idea of throwing, 30 trees at a time down, though.
Now,
That's
here's
something I definitely use.
and here's the thing to consider. That object does count towards your object limit. So, I mean, you throw down 6 of those 30 tree objects, and you just dropped 180 objects on your map. Like, boom.
Do they have a larger limit than we do?
I believe that it is a 500 object limit, which is about the same as ours. That would have, at one time they had many more, but I think we finally caught up on them. Breaking news, folks. Let me read this, see if we get anything. Nope, because Triple Patch Notes apparently just went out. But I don't see anything Foundry related. In fact, it still says Foundry functions will temporarily not be available when Season 10 launches. Blah. So, yeah, all I see are fixes to Borg Red Alerts, the 2 missions that came in with Season 10. Hey, you'll hopefully by Thursday people will be able to finish Fluid Dynamics, since you can't start it. And they put Battle Group Omega in the sector map. Okay, so nothing Foundry related, but
I know people are having a hard time getting into the Borg missions. Not when they're not in the other factions. In the KDF faction, they couldn't enter it. The button wasn't showing up at the CUDA system.
Right, and used to be you could just, hit the transwarp gate, but they turned off the transwarp gates. So apparently that they're going to fix that now. Not something I'd look forward to have to truck across the universe to get over to Battle Group Omega, but...
So, let's proceed with our special guest and our pre-recorded interview with Zorbane. Tonight's special guest author is Zorbane.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome, Zorbane, to the Author's Outpost. We're going to be talking about you tonight.
Oh, great. Looking forward to it.
Yes, since we don't have the Foundry editor up and running right now, or missions, it makes it a little bit more difficult to review a specific one. But tonight we thought that we would kind of do a more of a themed thing, because there's this little movie that we know that's coming out towards the end of the week from this little known art house studio. I think their name is Marvel.
Marvel? You sure it's not DC?
Marvel? Yeah, a little indie company.
Yeah, some little thing called Even Doors, or some
the Avengers,
some Revengers,
Avengers,
something like that. But that got me thinking about homages and just kind of making callbacks and references to pop culture and that sort of thing. And that got me thinking about a couple of little missions that I know. And I had no idea who to ask about, so I suggested you.
Oh, me? I wonder why.
Something about you and superheroes seems synonymous.
Well, they're a lot of fun. As everyone likes them right now too, right? It's actually all over every media, not just movies, TV shows, comics, of course.
That's true.
Like everything.
Got Daredevil now on Netflix, which was actually pretty damn good.
Yeah, I still have to watch that.
Oh, it's
Me too.
excellent.
Oh, so you have access to Daredevil, but not to Voyager?
Oh, you know what? I don't know. I'll have to check that. I'm pretty sure I'll have that, because that actually belongs to Netflix. There's no
right stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
there is, but
Daredevil is a Netflix show.
Yeah. You'd think it'd be available.
Well, the Australians got it, so if the Canadians didn't,
Well, who knows how that licensing stuff works, though.
the infernal lawyers do. That's
Yeah. Well, I have to say some lawyers are good. Yeah, they work for good and not evil. Coming from a family of lawyers.
Yeah.
Kind of like vigilantes. Superheroes. Are they good or bad?
Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad.
J. Jonah Jameson would say, they're a menace!
Yeah. But they sell papers.
So, yeah, homages. And that got me instantly thinking of, there's this little one, Duratanium Man?
Yeah. I think I made that one. I'm not sure.
And something, the indelible bulk, the incredible bulk.
Incredible Bulk. That's right. Can't get more green than that.
Nope.
So I guess the first question off the bat would be, what inspired you to go this route, to do these homages to these iconic characters?
Well, the first one was Duratanium Man, and I'm pretty sure probably watched one of the movies just then, and I kind of like. I mean, they're all, like I said, they're popular right now. They're in everyone's minds, and it was on mine, so it just got me inspired to make a mission similar to Duratanium Man. You know, I've always loved putting little references to movies or TV shows or video games in whatever, and Foundry missions or just normal conversation, and just having a whole Foundry mission based around it just seemed natural to me.
Well, what is your actual process for authoring? I know I seem to have remember hearing this once before, but maybe you could recap it for us.
Yeah, sure. My process is extremely structured. It all starts with an idea. So, just like Duratanium Man, hey, Iron Man, that's a lot of fun. And actually, the Duratanium Man, it's a lot like Iron Man 1. I believe that was the one I based it off of. So, that was my idea. Let's make an Iron Man 1 Foundry mission, and I'll write an outline for it. Just no dialogue, no maps or anything like that. And from there, I'll break it into different maps that I can put it into. So I have my whole dialogue. I'll break it into chunks, give them the maps for each one, and then after that, now they're not broken up into each map. I'll go to each one of those, break that into objectives, into battles, into dialogue, and all of that, and I'll just slowly work my way through that whole list, starting from the first objective all the way down to the last one. And that's all in Google Docs. It's all written on Google Docs, and I won't even create the Foundry mission yet until I'm finished all that. And once the Google Doc's done, I'll read it over, give it a proofread, and then after that, it goes into the Foundry.
That's amazing to me.
So you basically start at the high concept, and then pretty much you take I'll say a coder's view of it and build out the structure in that before you put pen to paper.
I was going to say it's very, very structured.
Yeah, you can play. I mean, I am a programmer, so it could be what I'm used to doing. You start off with the big picture, and then you keep breaking it down until you get to the pieces that you can work on individually, and then you just go from there. Just go piece by piece and just put it all together in the end. And not to say that I don't change it. Like, obviously, I'll have this cool idea or something, and I'll try to put it in the Foundry, and you know what, that actually doesn't work, and I'll change it up, or I'll have some more ideas, because as you're building the Foundry, things will pop up as well, like, oh, you know what, it'd be cooler if this happened, or this dialogue doesn't actually work. Yeah. I'll change it up, stuff like that.
Or those infamous times when you try to do something, you just can't quite get it to work out. Like, you have this high idea of, oh, I'm going to come in and there's going to be all these spaceships that show up, and then you can't get the spaceships to show up when you want them to.
Yes, yeah, you run out of groups or something like that. That actually happened to me with the last one I made. I was just, huge battle time. Oh, wait, never mind.
As long as it involves 25 groups.
Yeah, I went over that.
I tell you, I find that while I'm working on a mission, it almost takes on a certain tone. Like, you get to recognize a feel that it has, and that's how I write it. That's when the ideas come, based on the tone it has when you're in there working on it, and they're all different. But I don't know if I could ever plan it out that much beforehand, because it changes. It seems to change for me once I'm in.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that happens to me too. Like, so I was working on Commander Rehan right now, and I wanted it to be kind of funny too, just like Titanium Man and the Bulk. But as I wrote the outline and I started breaking it up, it's I can't really make a funny story out of this, but it'll make a great drama or whatever.
Yeah, I know the one problem that I had when I was working on my first Foundry mission. I wrote it all out, sort of like what you do in Word, but doing dialogue trees in any kind of Word document is a pain. So how do you get around that?
Oh no, yeah, I agree. It's a pain. What I ended up doing was just using bullet points for each branch. So you'd have, you type in your first thing, and then you have bullet points for every button, I guess I don't call it, every button. And then below that, if there's more buttons, you just have another bullet point, and it just keeps going down, which can get ridiculous sometimes. And I've had to break it out into another page just to say, like, go to page 2 to see the rest of this conversation. And that seems to work out for me. But yeah, it can get really messy.
So you basically find your fate, the things. For this response, go to page 3.
Only if it gets terrible. Usually my dialogue doesn't get that crazy. I'll go maybe 4 deep, and it'll end up going back to something related. Like, they'll all end up going to the same place usually for mine, and if you just follow it, it'll say go to like paragraph, this one, which isn't too far away. I guess if you wanted to go crazy, you could do that.
I had this one dialogue tree that I did, and I actually had created a flowchart in PowerPoint because it was one of the times that the editor was down, and I was trying to plan out my dialogue tree. And then I put the whole thing in the editor, and I did it as a dialogue that was connected to an NPC, and then I realized it needed to be a map-based dialogue.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
I still think we should have a little drop-down thingy where we could select what kind of dialogue tree we want it to be.
Easier than writing it all over. Think about it. At least you had a Microsoft document to copy from.
Yes, I
could
could copy and paste.
I have to do them all. If I screw it up, I got to do them all over again. I have to copy and paste from one dialog box into another dialog box. So I'll go from the storyline back to the map, to the storyline, back to the map until it's all fixed.
Well, the little snag was that I had edited the dialogue tree after I put it into the editor, and I added to it. So it wasn't the same as it was in my flowchart that I'd created in PowerPoint. It was slightly different. So I was going back and forth between the dialogue tree, my PowerPoint flowchart, and the new one that I was creating, trying to figure out what I'd changed.
Oh, that's hard.
Hey, that's almost worse than having to just copying pasting.
Yeah,
but actually, off the top of my head, can you not copy those dialogue things, like inside the dialogue editor? Like, there's those balloons. Can't you copy those balloons and paste them? I don't...
You can copy the contents, but you can't actually copy the actual floaty balloon itself.
Okay.
Right, because you're going from the storyline to the map-based, or vice versa. I suppose, like, the way I do it is I open the dialogue that I just wrote. I highlight all the text, copy it, and then paste it into the storyline. Or vice versa, if I screw something up, because it has happened a few times before to me. But yeah, that's how I do it, because I don't know. Because I don't write anything else down.
I'll have to check. For some reason, I'm thinking you can copy the balloon, but I might just be imagining things.
You could copy it, say, to one map or another, but you can't copy it onto the storyline or from the storyline onto a map.
Well, I'm talking about inside the editor, where we can like drag the balloons around, like not the balloon drop down onto the map, but I mean in the editor you have each little dialogue window per text, whatever you can say. For some reason, I'm thinking you can copy those, but I'm not sure. I might just be confusing with something else.
Yeah, I don't know if you can copy between the map and the storyline. Is all.
Well, hopefully we'll get the editor back soon, and
we can play
that
with it.
sounds That sounds like it's good fodder for a possible tutorial from somebody.
Yeah.
Control C, Control V.
Yeah. I'll tell you what's hard. I mean, when Foundry first came out, when the editor first came live on Holodeck, many of us had already published missions on Tribble. So we did what we called hard to port, which was we remade the mission on Holodeck, copying every single detail from Tribble over to Holodeck.
Ugh.
Some of us would have the game open twice, just going
Mhm.
from one back and forth, back and forth. That's how Chronotons and Klingons was done on Holodeck.
That's like torture.
Yeah.
That's the good old days.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of, I guess, the good old days, kind of roll back the clock a little bit. What got you into the Foundry?
Foundry, for me, it was around season 5. I run out of content to play, and I was playing the queues a lot, but I thought, there's all these Foundry missions. Why don't I give some a try? So I'm pretty sure I played Alamax City of the Palmari first, and which is an amazing mission, which everyone should try. If they haven't before.
If he can get it revised and republished. Unfortunately, that's the one of his that is out of the game at the moment.
Oh, that sucks. Well,
Yes, it does.
hopefully it does come back soon. It blew my mind. 'Cause I had no idea this kind of stuff was in the game at the time, and
Yeah, he did some amazing things there. We've talked about it many times with him.
yes, yeah, all of his missions, just the visuals when you're playing. They're just and story is great and everything like that too. And from there I just kept playing more and more, and then eventually I just thought to myself, you know what? Maybe I could do something like this too. So, I jumped in, and the first mission I made doesn't exist, is still sitting in the Foundry. It's a Bajoran mission. If hope it doesn't hurt you too much, Tony, that it's just sitting there untouched now.
You have to finish it. You have to. It's just as bad as Cass not finishing the second part of his.
Oh. maybe,
Yes.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, it is known that I don't finish missions.
And you don't play them either.
That's what I was just going to say that.
It is known that I don't play them either, yes.
Except for, it's now on the record that you've been playing them consistently for the podcast.
Spurless lies and slander?
He just wings it.
Yeah.
So from there, yeah. I tried to make that mission, but as I think a lot of first-time Foundry authors learn, is that the Foundry can be a bit limited, and all those cool ideas that you got when you first plan your mission out, that stuff isn't really going to fly unless you start getting more advanced workarounds and such. So I put that in the back burner and just decided to start a pretty simple one instead, just to learn the ropes kind of thing, just a bit of pew pew and nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I think everybody should always try and start with a hello world and then go and try and rewrite Solitaire after the fact.
Yeah. You have to get used to it. There's a learning curve. It's not too steep, but there is one. And you definitely have to put the time in before you're familiar with all the tools. And that's all it really is. You just have to be familiar with what each thing does.
Yeah, and a lot of patience, too, to figure out what you can and can't do.
Well, I figure if I can do it, anybody can do it. So.
And sometimes redo it.
Yeah, that's right. Don't you have 20 missions out there, Paul?
Yeah, I think 25, but
20. Oh.
I have a broken spotlight on the KDF side right now that's causing me grief.
Oh.
I have to get in there and fix it. I guess when Season 9 came out, a reach marker broke. So it's uncompletable right now.
Well, there's that thread in the forum right now, which they asked who wanted their spotlight to be taken down. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, I tend not to go in there too often, but maybe I should.
Yeah, it's because of the sector space change.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, if you want to change it up, they'll take your spotlight down so you can do it.
Yeah, I have to do that.
Actually, I'm looking at it right now. Smirk actually posted it. So
Yeah, I better.
Yeah, we just need to get with Trendy, and she should be able to, or probably Trendy first, but also probably maybe even Zero,
hmm
because it may be her that actually does the legwork, but we have to get the list to Trendy so that she knows what needs to get fixed.
hmm But I mean, you could just poke her on Twitter maybe too.
That sounds like a good Monday afternoon thing.
Yeah.
When we're asking about the republish.
Yes. Every hour.
No, not that bad.
Well,
Every
it
90
hasn't-
minutes.
Yeah. It hasn't gone yet. There's been nothing that I found on there, and I've been checking a couple of times a day. It's going slow, if at all.
I mean, it's only been a week.
Yep.
We're just an impatient lot.
And we're just talking
Well-
about patience, right?
Isn't it so true, though, that every time the Foundry is down, everybody gets all these great ideas?
Yes. It's like, oh, suddenly I want to be in the Foundry even more now.
Yeah.
It's gone. Give
definitely.
it back.
Oh, I need to write this down, but I can't.
And-
Because unlike some people, others can only work in the editor and they can't sit in a Google Doc and write out their thoughts.
No,
and-
I can't. I'm stuck if there's no Foundry. But
Well,
that's
you
it.
can-
It's go ahead.
Yeah, you can always do. You don't have to build your whole mission in there like how
Sure, that's
Tony and I do. But like you said, you have like the moment of like, oh, that'd be a great idea. And just put it in there, just to remind yourself next time.
well. What's going to happen, I think, when it does come back, is that there's so many new things in there now that I'll probably just go exploring through those for a while, and I'm sure I'll say, oh, I can use that, and I'm going to put that in there, or I'll find a reason to use that. And
Yeah, how many new shapes can we build out of this starbase?
It's all right. It's like any other addiction. You suffer withdrawal symptoms.
Yes.
You become irritable.
Get the shakes, sweat. I
Is
guess
there a
I'm
list
the-
of is there a list of the new assets somewhere?
Not a full and complete list. A little bit that came in. Basically, we got ground versions of at least 70% of all the Federation ships, one Klingon ship, and I believe 5 Romulan ships. So you literally can put Voyager on the ground now and let those Kazon take her over.
Yeah, that's a great thing. I can't wait to work with that stuff.
But even more importantly, you can stick it outside a window on a sky castle and have a window on your space station. Or also, you can have space stations in the background too, because we got all of the player starbase models for use in space and on ground.
Huh.
And a bunch of other little tidbits from inside of Earth Space Dock, including, the Earth Space Dock map. That was the big thing.
And
So-
animated doors, which to me
Animated and static doors. Plus, we also, if you ever played the diplomacy mission for the first contact stuff on the clusters, we got that diplomacy briefing room. That basically that Starship Lounge.
Yes, I remember. I think we were being begging for that for a long time.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff we've been begging for a long time.
Yeah.
It's just been within the last 6 months that we get so many of the things.
Yeah, it's great to be getting all these assets. I hate to complain, but I wish we could get a couple of tweaks to the editor would be nice.
Well, we just have to find the right inducement.
Yes.
Well, you just get the feeling that we were the guinea pigs for Neverwinter, and now they just don't want to be bothered. And it's through the kindness of a few people's hearts that we're getting all these assets.
Although we did get the top 3 recently, which
Yes.
I thought was amazing.
The top 3 is a major improvement to being able to find people's missions. And I myself can't say that I've noticed a major upswing in plays, but to be fair, most everything I have has a door on a populated system.
Right.
Those are busy or they're just not there. at all. No doors at all.
But, as a Foundry author, I tend to concentrate more on the things that help us build the missions. We build them more than play them. I would say.
But
Yeah.
hopefully, as we get more people to play Foundry missions, it'll increase the amount of interest that there is in the Foundry, and as interest in the Foundry soars, then it'll become more important.
Yes, that's the
So hopefully
dream. Yeah,
hopefully it'll all feed in and go in a positive direction.
that would be nice.
So I'm curious, Zorbane, there's a lot of humor in your missions, and I'm just wondering what some of your inspiration is for the comedy in what you've written.
Comedy and humor. I like to think that's part of my just kind of personality. I like to crack jokes here and there. And same with like having references to movies or whatnot, pop culture kind of things. I just feel like that's kind of who I am, and just kind of goes into my missions. I never really plan on specific jokes. Usually they'll just be something that pops up while I'm writing. Like I have an example from The Great Escape, which is my first mission. I have the players going through these sewers to infiltrate the enemy base, and then one of the NPCs they meet is a Cation. So I thought, you know what? If I just walk through a sewer and walk up to a cat, they're not gonna like that. So I had the cat, tell a player, "Oh, you smell! Get away from me!" That kind of, small things like that. And then, of course, I've got a couple missions where it's just not serious at all, I guess. Like Duratania Man and the Galaxy's Fair, especially, which is everyone you talk to is just, almost like off the wall. It's not. They're all references to everything else in that mission. Just put it that way.
When it comes to, I think a lot of players appreciate that. I found that in a lot of reviews I've read, not so much for my own missions, but for others, they always say, like, that was hysterical, I love that, and I don't think they care much if it's canon or not. You have some sticklers that, like, will tell you, oh, that number of degrees you used in that dialogue is not accurate.
Or you don't say, sir, I'm a woman.
Yeah, well, that's I take issue with that, but I mean, ever since they said Mr. Savick in Star Trek II, that's it for me. That's the canon. So I say Mr. I use Mr. all the time.
Yep.
But there's my backup right there.
It didn't change till Voyager.
Well, did it change?
I think Tom Paris called her sir at first, but she didn't like that.
Yeah.
No, but that was personal. That's personal.
Yeah.
I think that humor actually helps if you have a lot of dialogue. I was thinking about that, and like a lot of players that are not terribly fond of heavy dialogue and heavy reading, I think if there's humor sprinkled throughout, it helps keep the players' interest and kind of keep their mind off the fact that they're having to read so much.
Yeah, it's a way to to have enjoyment, I guess. I mean, that's why we're all either writing Foundry missions or playing them. It's for fun, right? And if they read something funny, they laugh, then they're having fun. I actually have a review that, just coincidentally, I saw one for the Galaxy's Fair, which has no combat at all, and with the top 3, you don't really get a warning of what the mission's about. There's no mission briefing or whatever. So the review basically said like he went in and he didn't know what was going on, but he was laughing, so he had a lot of fun, and that's why he liked it.
Yeah.
Laughing is synonymous with fun.
Yeah.
I remember one night when I was on vacation and I was looking for a quick mission to play. Zorbane, you had talked me into playing the Galaxy's Fair. And so I think it was like 11 o'clock at night or something. So I'm like sitting there at my grandparents' house in Florida, and I am giggling for like 30 minutes or whatever it took me to play the mission. I think I just giggled nonstop pretty much. And Foundry missions don't generally make me laugh that much. I mean, there'll be humor here and there that I'll appreciate, but yeah, definitely it was pretty funny.
Yeah, usually Star Trek, they do have their humorous missions, but usually it's a pretty serious show. But yeah, once in a while they'll have what's that? Like the Ferengi mission? It's not Ferengi episodes where it's just a laugh the whole time.
Like the
Mhm.
Magnificent Ferengi,
Oh yeah.
or
Yes,
Trouble with Tribbles.
Yes, those ones. Yeah, I mean, those are always fun. Once in a while, you have those. It's great.
Or any one with Harry Mudd.
Hmm. Yeah, I found that interesting that there was actually going to be a TV show with him. I still find that unbelievable. But anyway, speaking of TV shows, we have our weekly Star Trek episode that we discuss, and this week it is season 5, episode 12 of Voyager, and it's called "The Bride of Chaotica."
Dun dun dun.
Yes, well, this episode was a homage to Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers and all the 30s serials, which I think they did a very good job. It had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah,
It was an excellent
basically
episode.
it was basically a love story to all of those old serials, from the costume design to the set design, which was retro minimalist.
And of course, all done in the monochrome field of the holodeck.
Yes, a feature I've only asked Taco for a few times, of putting in a filter so that we can do black and white episodes.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, though, to have that.
Like a
fun.
map effect.
Like a
Sure.
blind,
Why
yes.
not?
Yeah.
Just take all the color out of that. That'd be awesome.
Plus, I've said for a while that I wouldn't mind having Satan's robot as a NPC.
Yeah, they'll need to put him and Chaotica as an NPC. That'd be great.
Oh yeah, I was saying the actor who played him, his name was Martin Rayner, and he did a fantastic job. So over the top.
Yeah, and that was, it's an episode that you get to have fun with, because all of the characters get to be larger than life. You have for the time, the ubiquitous secretary who's always getting into one jam or the other the hero has to go and save, who's there to make shrill sounds whenever
Yes.
needed.
the damsel in distress.
And you have the square-jawed hero who is quick with a fist and a quick kiss, up against the minions of terror with their destructo beams and their fiendishly monologued plots.
And their tricked out Roman era costumes in the future, which I love that.
Retro futuristic.
Yeah, it's just crazy. They had some strange ideas about what the future would be like. But, you can't say it's any less imaginative than it is today.
Which, amusingly, that was part of the whole reason why Paris is supposedly doing this, is that he was studying the way the past viewed the future.
Right.
Yes, and the line of when Janeway asks him, "So what have you learned so far?" And he's like, "Well, they thought it was going to be much more black and white than it is."
Oh,
Yeah, it was definitely a highlight, especially in a show that didn't have a lot of them. But yeah, they did a great job on this episode. Yep, top shelf.
I would certainly recommend anybody who is not a Voyager fan. You don't really have to be. You don't have to have any of the back mythos. You just need to know that it's on a ship. It has a holodeck. They have a crew member who is a hologram.
Yeah, and they're invaded by creatures from the fifth dimension. Of course, they weren't from the fifth dimension. They were just photonic creatures.
From outside of our current understanding of a reality.
it could be a fifth dimension.
Yes, could be. But it was just a fifth dimension to Dr. Chaotica.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
But they didn't, the human carbon-based life forms didn't register for them. So they, we would have shown up as invisible. Non-existent.
We were the non-existent non-entities where photonic life forms are the only form of life.
Right. So the doc was called in to help save the day.
As president of Earth, with his suit and his cute little badge on his suit jacket and
Top hat. Well, or
Yes, dressed
his
in
fedora.
Fedora. That's right.
1930s garb.
Yes.
His
I liked how the
double-breasted,
aliens were like that too.
his double-breasted suit.
Yeah.
And
That's one thing I couldn't figure out. Why were the aliens dressed in, 30s mobsters, in stripes? And, yeah.
the only thing I can think of is that somehow, when they integrated with the reality of the holodeck,
Yeah, they were automatically.
it interpreted them in terms of what would appear.
Well, there has to be an explanation for the plot to work.
Well, to be fair, there weren't necessarily explanations of that sort of things in the
No.
1930 serials either.
No, I know.
But yeah, I'd say that most of the cast had fun, especially Kate Mulgrew, who got to vamp up her scenes as the evil Spider Queen Arachnia.
Yeah, she's great. Even if Janeway wasn't, Kate Mulgrew was great.
Was she necessarily evil though? I thought she's supposed to be Captain Proton's ally.
She's nebulously unaligned.
Yeah, she has her own agenda.
Probably.
She's the queen of the spider people, so that can't necessarily make her good, because we all know spiders are bad.
Yeah, and she's apparently like Orion.
Well, yeah, that's right.
She has pheromones.
That she uses to control people.
Yeah,
To muddle the minds of the mundane.
that was advanced stuff for 1936, which is when most of these serials were made. Filming little models and giant lizards.
Yeah, periscopes on your rocket ship with the like I think I said earlier, the minimalist control set of
Yeah,
everything is push button.
yeah, dials and knobs.
Just one button
Gauges.
for everything.
But, you see, to be honest, you see a little of that now. It's almost making a return. Look what JJ did with the inside of the Enterprise. He used the brewery.
Yeah,
With
so-
the tanks and the pipes.
Well,
and
to be
gauges.
fair, that he caught a lot of crap for that too.
Well, I don't
And-
know why.
Well, the real reason why they did it is, just they ran out of budget. So they had to shoot those scenes somewhere, and since they couldn't do sets, and he does like to do practical sets whenever possible.
Well, I thought it worked well. Dressed them up enough.
Yeah, I actually liked it too.
But they couldn't film in there for long, periods of time because body heat would raise the temperature in the room, and that was bad for the product. That had to be kept environmentally, at a certain, set temperature.
Watching those scenes, it was nuclear beer anyways, so.
Yeah. You had that whole water sequence with Scotty going through the tubes.
And that always made me think more of Willy Wonka than
Oh, so I wasn't the only one.
See, I guess I'm in a minority because I really like the movies. I do. I mean, Star Trek in the 60s was just an action-adventure show. They did occasionally have the social commentary episodes, but that's not all it was. It was Wagon Train to the Stars. It was a Western. That's all it was. And I think people forget that. They're used to TNG and the newer Star Trek, and they don't get that it was just an action show. And that's what the movies are. And the movies aren't called the next one.
I would
They're called
honestly
Star Trek.
I would say that they were just better at subtly integrating their ideas and their messages without. I would say TNG was more of a sledgehammer when it came to its moral stance on things,
Absolutely.
whereas the original series was much.
It was lighter.
It was slyer about slipping it in.
I don't know
Well, they
about
had to
that.
be.
Okay.
I'm just rewatching, or actually watching, the original series, and some of the moral messages are almost like reading a C.S. Lewis book. I mean, it's not subtle at all. It's like, here is the moral of the story, boys and girls.
Yeah, they do actually at the end of the episodes. They do say oh, what if
Yeah,
we
but-
didn't stop doing this? back in the 20th century.
Right. That's true, but they're not. It's not every episode, and it's not all the time, and it's more difficult when you've got a 2-hour film to make. It's just one thing.
Oh, and I would certainly admit that the films are not usually the ground for the moral play. I mean,
Right.
probably,
You learn nothing in Wrath of Khan. It was just an old enemy returns, and it was a battle. It was a submarine battle. That was a submarine movie.
I mean, I would say that, well, if you want to get down to it, it's probably the even ones are more of the straight up action ones, and the odd ones are the ones that tended to have the message to them.
Mm,
You had the discovery of new life, and
well, except for Save the Whales.
well, that was 4.
Yeah, that's an even one.
Okay, fair enough.
That's got a moral message to it.
That was an eco story.
Yeah. Yes.
Save the whales.
That
Oh yeah,
one
that was big at the time.
and
And
Insurrection are my 2 favorites.
I like First Contact, Wrath of Khan, and Undiscovered Country.
And
my
Undiscovered Country was, I would almost say, fear of the future.
Yeah.
Or, really fear of change of circumstance. And what do you do when people who've been taught to hate each other for so long?
Maybe forced together. Yeah, like I said, that's one of my favorite ones.
And I would say, well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's a really important movie. I thought all the movies were very important. Like, the original movies had very important points that moved basically the storyline of Trek forward. But I'm not a huge fan of any of the movies except for Insurrection. That's the only one that I've watched over and over and over and over and over and over and over. For the most part, I'd rather watch one of the really good 2-part episodes from pretty much any of the series over one of the movies.
See, I love the history in First Contact. I love all the Zephram Cochrane stuff. I love all the, the Phoenix, and I love that whole thing.
I like that part,
It's
but
great.
I'm not a fan of the Borg.
No, I don't like the Borg either, but to me they were, except for being the antagonist and the conflict, that's not what I enjoy about them. Although I did like Alice Krieger. She makes one of the best entrances in movie history.
And I would honestly say that as far as a moral story goes, this episode of Voyager was not one of them.
No, well, it didn't have any designs on being that.
Well, they did have the whole side plot about whether the photonic life forms were actually life forms and trying to save them. Now, there's kind of a theme that they were starting to try and build on in Voyager about the photonics and whether they really had the right to exist as a life
Oh,
form.
yeah.
And their development of the Doctor as a character.
They did it much more effectively in other episodes, though.
Yeah.
When the Hirogen
Yes.
had
Their
hunted
hollow
them.
ship.
Yeah, that was great. That was a good episode.
That was a good episode.
Yes, I agree. That string of episodes was actually one of my favorite little storyline threads that they did in Voyager. I didn't have a lot of Voyager episodes that I was really crazy about, but I thought that thread was original and that it had a lot more thought in it than some of the others. My main issue with Voyager is how much of a rehash it was of other Trek.
After a while, how can you avoid it?
Yeah.
I mean, there was such a glut of Star Trek on the air at that time that's why it disappeared. That's why Enterprise disappeared. There was just so much, people just were sick of it.
Well, that, and it was relegated to one network, which is a 4th place network.
Yeah, of which Voyager was the flagship.
Yep, and Enterprise afterwards.
I did feel
But-
bad for the photonic beings. They
Mm.
kind
Oh,
of just showed up like, hey, what's going on? They got kind of like shooting his death ray at them suddenly.
And yeah, Voyager's responsible for basically war crimes there. Another thing Janeway should be held accountable for.
Oh, photonic life being killed, yeah. Like I remember that the guy walks in on I think it was Tuvok in Paris, and he's like, "You've killed 53 of my people," and I was like, "Oh, that sucks."
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like if the original 2 came down, you could think of it just as like Commander Riker on an away mission. Hey, look, there's this planet and there's people here. Let's go say hi. And then one of them gets zapped.
Yeah.
The red shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Oh.
it's just one of those. And Paris is like, "Oh, but this isn't real." I'm pretty sure his friend getting killed was pretty darn real to him.
Yeah.
You
Felt
killed
real.
Tony.
Yeah. Okay.
There it is.
We got the scream in. What's her name?
Constance.
Constance.
Constance Goodhart.
Constance
Yeah.
Goodhart.
I keep thinking of Tess Trueheart. She
Yeah,
was,
well,
Dick Tracy.
they all had that sort of similar naming, similar
Yeah.
occupations.
She had a
Occupation being
constant
captured
true
by the bad
heart.
guys.
They all wore their silk dinner dresses to take dictation and get captured in.
That lasted a while. On TV, and Leave It to Beaver, their mother always was wearing a string of pearls and nice, neatly dressed, cooking huge meals, 3 times a day.
It was a different time. It was a different image.
Well, unfortunately, some people still want to go back there, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, any other thoughts on the episode before we sign off?
If you're a non-Voyager person, totally go and watch it. It's worth your time.
It definitely is. It's a lot of fun.
And I believe this was off-air mentioned, but didn't you say, Tony, that there's a follow-ish up episode?
Shattered Chaotica appears again, and there's actually another one that refers to Chaotica. I think there's 3 episodes that...
Shattered was a good episode.
Yep, because Chaotica actually threatens to return, and Dr. Chaotica, and he does in a following episode.
Yeah, that was the one where there were time, slivers all over the ship,
Yes.
and they would go back and forth to different time periods in Voyager's history.
Yep. And
That's
you get to see Naomi all grown up.
Yeah, and you get to see Seska again. They go through that whole...
We don't talk about Seska.
I liked her. I like the actress. All right, then. We're going to wrap it up. I'd like to thank Zorbane for coming on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Problem. I'm sure we'll have you back again someday.
Could be very soon.
I know. This is already the 2nd time today.
As I said again last time, talk to my agent.
Yes.
I'll have my people talk to your people. It'll be a thing.
Brunch, right?
We'll do lunch. Okay. And we're back.
We are?
Really
Oh,
bad.
no.
Thanks, Zorbane, again for joining us. I'm glad we could accommodate his schedule. Also, let me explain that we had a little accident the night we did the interview. We had done the whole thing. It was about an hour. And when I went to play back the recorded file, it was corrupted. It was about, 11 o'clock our time. And I had to get him to do it all over again. So if you noticed a couple of references to Deja Vu there, that's why. Anyhow, so, I'll bring up the addresses. Here we go. You can visit our website at www.theauthorsoutpost.com, mailbag at theauthorsoutpost.com. Our Twitter handle is at Authors Outpost, and we have an IRC channel, which is # Authors Outpost. So we'll say goodnight now. I'll say goodnight for Elenis Kendra. So as Captain P.F. Dennis saying goodnight.
And this is Casmodian saying goodnight.
Alrighty. See you next week.